Yet more Greenbrier goodness here in West Virginia. The Saints hitting the fields this morning. Foggy, overcast skies. Further proof that this weather is the best of any training camp site in the NFL. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Neighbors here at the Greenbrier, continuing CST's coverage of Saints Training Camp 2015. Now, to give you a further weather perspective, the heat index in New Orleans was 103 degrees this morning. At the same time, it was 73 degrees here at the Greenbrier. Sean Payton happy with the tempo again at this morning's workout, but there is heat on several Saints, especially those on the defensive side of the football. Now, that unit was fourth 2 years ago. Last year, they were ranked 31st, so they definitely have a chip on their shoulder as they enter this season of play. Now, the Saints definitely reshuffled the deck in the offseason. Brandon Browner looks to be a mainstay opposite Keenan Lewis. A lot of young linebackers in there and a lot of up and downs on the depth chart at defensive line. But if you talk to the veterans on this team, they enter this training camp with the purpose on getting better from a year ago.
You got to throw all that out, take it one day at a time. Like we said last year, everything looks good on paper, but it's all about when the pads come on and the lights turn on. So we just got to keep working, man. We're an unfinished product right now. And I feel like we got the right guys in here with the additions of Browner, Spencer, all the new guys, all the rookies. We brought in the guys that can help us win championships. So those guys work, and that's what we need.
Speaking of that Saints defense, they had a nice morning workout and 11-on-11 drills. Delvin Breaux had a nice pass breakup covering Marcus Colston, and Raphael Bush continues to have a great camp with another pass breakup of his own. You know, the linebacker position is very intriguing. You have the veteran David Hawthorne, you have Stephon Anthony playing, and then you have another veteran, Donnell Ellerbe. He has fought injuries early in this camp and has been back at it the past few days. Of course, he came over to New Orleans in that Kenny Stills trade. He's battled an awful lot the past few seasons, but enters this year with a lot to prove.
I know what I can do, and you know, when you're gone for a year, people seem to forget, but I mean, when you get back out there, it's like it's second nature. We've been doing this all our life. It really didn't matter where I went. I would have had a chip on my shoulder. I have a chip on my shoulder every year, but just being the fact that the defense got a chip on their shoulder makes it that much sweeter, and we all can grow together and fight together.
Sean Payton is trying to get his football team ready for exhibition play. Of course, they begin that Thursday night at Baltimore, trying to transition into their practice routine, into preparing for those Ravens. At this point in camp, all of these Saints are just tired of hitting the other, and that includes, maybe more so than anybody, those offensive linemen. And when you break down the offensive line, Max Unger will be such a key component, and then you have the left tackle, Teron Armstead. And your number 3, he is feeling more comfortable, which could be bad news for anybody playing the Saints.
I can definitely say I've improved. More technique than anything. Doing it out here, getting more and more reps, I think has helped out a lot.
Talk about your rising stars, the Saints' hottest commodity. Maybe it's left tackle Teron Armstead, who is poised for a breakout season, a Saint appreciated by his team, but who has flown under the radar nationally.
He's a player, I'm not going to use the word underrated, but man, I'm telling you what, he's really done a lot of the things we looked for and hoped for when we drafted him in the 3rd round. He's athletic, he's smart, and I think his skill set for that position is outstanding.
I'm still learning every day. There's still a lot of things that I'm trying to improve on. The smaller details I'm now getting into it, learning route and things like that. But I'm still learning all the small stuff too.
Protecting Drew Brees' blind side is no joke, and it's a responsibility Armstead takes great pride in. Last season, he only allowed 3 sacks, impressing his line mates who realize how high his ceiling can be.
He could be as good. I don't even want to say as good as he wants to be, because I know he wants to be a great player. You know, there is no ceiling for him. He could be one of the best of all time. He really could. I believe that very much.
Teron is athletic as they come, but what makes him dangerous is his growing confidence. You see, Armstead is playing more and thinking less.
Pre-snap, it kind of slowed down for me a little more. Learning guys' stances and defensive alignments, it kind of helped me out more. I mean, the athletes are still going.
We will find out if year 3 is the charm for Saints left tackle Teron Armstead, maybe a future Pro Bowler as early as this season. Stay tuned. Well, coming up next, our daily camp counselor, we bring in Times-Picayune columnist Jeff Duncan, who never shies away from offering his opinion as our coverage continues here at the Greenbrier.
Saints Training Camp is brought to you by Take 5 Oil Change, the fastest oil change on the planet, and by Louisiana Cat, your statewide dealer for Caterpillar equipment in Louisiana.
CST's coverage of Saints Training Camp 2015 continues here at the Greenbrier, one of our favorite segments, our daily camp counselor. Good perspective today as I bring in Counselor Jeff Duncan, the Times-Picayune, of course, a columnist who always has an opinion. Let's start off with the Greenbrier. You know, a lot of fingers pointing on what happened to the Saints team a year ago, and some say maybe training camp was too soft, but Sean Payton has been quick to say, you know, you got to pick your battles when it comes to this place.
Yeah, and I understand why people might view this as like a country club setting, and it is a very, very nice setting for a training camp, but I really think that is basically irrelevant towards how this team plays on the field. I mean, I covered the team a number of years, Mike, when they were down in Thibodaux, Louisiana, in very difficult conditions, and they had a terrible season as a result of it. So I don't think it translates to wins and losses. And I think if you talk to the veterans on this team that have been in other camps, they say it actually helps this team down the road because they're not worn out by midseason. Their legs are still fresh. So I'm believing people are just kind of searching for something there.
And Sean Payton, once again, lucky with the weather. No rain when it looked like rain in the forecast. Let's talk about this camp. You've been out here a few days now. Different tone in this camp. I mean, a year ago, they're answering questions about the Super Bowl. Drew Brees is talking about playing until he's 46. This time around, you're hearing there's a chip on our shoulder. We're focused. I mean, to me, there's a palpable difference in this camp.
Well, 7-9 will do that to you. They're humbled, I think, and I think very much have a business-like approach, the proper attitude going into this season. I think things really got out of hand, and everybody, media included, kind of drank the Kool-Aid on this team. And they're flying under the radar. We haven't had a lot of national media in. People are looking elsewhere, and I think it's good for this team right now. They've got a lot of young players. The worst thing that could happen, I think, is getting a ton of hype. So I like the attitude I'm seeing so far.
Talk about your latest column. It brought up a point. You know, we've seen out here you have 2 first-round picks for the Saints, Andres Pete and Stephon Anthony, but 2 Saints who have really had 2 different training camps so far.
Dramatically different. Yeah. You know, the talk of camp has been Stephon Anthony. He's way ahead of schedule, I think, as far as knowing the defensive playbook, a guy that's already been not only inserted into the first-team defense, but he's calling the plays in the huddle, and that speaks volumes to his maturity as a young guy. Andres Pete, the number 13 pick, we've all talked about it. I mean, he was supposed to be a developmental prospect when he came in, and I know that's hard for fans to wrap their head around. A number 13 pick in the draft might not have an immediate impact, but it happens at that position in particular. He's a young guy, came out after his junior year, is young even for his class. And so I think they looked at him long-term as an answer against on the offensive line, much like the way John Stinchcomb came in and really didn't contribute much in his first 2 years and ended up being a Pro Bowl right tackle. So I don't think it's fair to judge him right now after 1 week of camp, but I would say he's got to get his conditioning, in shape. He's got to get in better shape because right now it's very difficult for him to even finish a practice.
Let's talk about the guy who we haven't seen out here in the practice field except running every now and then is Jarris Byrd. And, I think it's easy sometimes to look at his situation and wonder, is he really that hurt? Are they resting him? But it's been a big question so far in this camp.
It's a huge question because he's a guy they're counting on. They're paying him a lot of money. He's expected to be the quarterback back there in the secondary, and every day he misses is a lost opportunity to develop cohesiveness with Kenny Vaccaro and Raphael Bush and the cornerbacks on the back end. And he didn't play a lot of football for this team last year. You know, he only played about 4 games before he was injured. I think everybody, and probably Jarris included, would love to see him out on the field as soon as possible. But he is a veteran guy. He's not a young guy whose head's going to be swimming. He'll be fine, I think, mentally. I think it's more physically getting him in game shape, ready to go. And the only way you can do that is to get out here.
Finally, we ask all our counselors this question, been getting different answers. A lot of ifs on this football team, many more than we've seen in recent memory in the Sean Payton era. What's the biggest if for you that they're going to have to attain to be successful?
Well, I think their depth is a huge question mark. I really think the starting units on both sides of the ball look okay to me. But this team's perilously thin at some position. The offensive line, I think, cornerback, you got a lot of unknowns. They really can't afford injuries at certain spots. And I know every team in the league can say that, but more so this year because of what you mentioned, so many young players that really are unproven at the NFL level. I think there's a lot of potential there. But early on, if they have some injuries to some veterans, you're going to be throwing some young guys into spots that they haven't been in before, and that's always risky.
Good stuff. Just talk about your coverage at NOLA.com. I know you guys have a staff out here and busy every day.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, we blanket coverage. I mean, I think we're getting about 15 or 16 stories a day up on our website at NOLA.com. And people can't get enough of the Saints, as you know. So it's a lot of fun, but we're also working hard. But I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Quality counseling, Mr. Duncan. I appreciate your time.
Anytime, Mike.
All right, Jeff Duncan. We'll be right back with today's quote of the day from here at the Greenbrier. Welcome back to our coverage here at the Greenbrier. It's our last segment time for our quote of the day. We go to the defensive side of the football. One of the great Saints stories out here is defensive lineman Kasim Edebali. Of course, he grew up in Germany, didn't play football until late in high school, actually grew up rooting for the football of the soccer variety. So I asked him, who was his NFL role model growing up? It may surprise you.
Ray Lewis was always a great inspiration to me. It's funny because you don't understand what he's saying, but he was always so intense. I was like, man, I want to be just like him. You know, you always had guys you were looking up to, but like you couldn't really watch it. But I remember I played Madden, so that's how I knew every play out there.
Pretty topical stuff, Mr. Edebali. After all, the Saints play in Baltimore on Thursday. Maybe that night you'll get a chance to meet your role model, Ray Lewis. Well, that wraps up today's show. We'd like to thank Camp Counselor Jeff Duncan of the Times-Picayune. I'm Mike Neighbors. We'll see you again tomorrow night.